I'm so happy to see that I'm not alone in my feelings about this film because essentially this has very much middle of the road to poor reviews across the board. The Nun 2 is probably the worst entry in the Conjuring universe so far. And I'm not saying that it's a bad film to watch. By all means, watch the film. You know, it's definitely a good horror movie, definitely a good scary movie for this time of year. By all means, watch it for that. You know, we're talking something that's still on the same, plane with what James Wan is doing, what he's trying to do and trying to be a part of when it comes to building this universe. But this movie sucks. It's not, it's such a poor attempt that it's just on this level of what they were doing with Annabelle, and I hated what they were doing with Annabelle too. I know I might be the only one or one of the few, but I don't care. When you're talking about the Conjuring universe, there has to be certain levels of continuity because that's what you're trying to connect. You're trying to make all of these make sense. And when you make movies that don't make sense, even outside of the Conjuring universe, when you make movies that don't make sense and they ignore certain plot points in other movies, you're talking about movies that are now on the same level as like things in the Friday the 13th franchise, which nobody cares if those make sense or not. They don't care if there's a certain continuity to them or not. People care about this franchise. They care about the Conjuring universe and what they're building. And The Nun 2 is basically another film that's just is a cash cow and is shitting all over everything else that they're building around it. So much so, I have to find this clip. I remember I saw it when I watched the film the other day. It was part of, it might be in my thing here. It was a little featurette. It was James Wan, The Thread That Ties. It's this little 90-second behind-the-scenes thing of James Wan talking about the Nun and how excited they were and blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say, and he uses these exact words. I might actually even play it. Let me make sure my headphones aren't plugged in. I'm going to actually play this so you could hear this bullshit that comes out of this guy's mouth. It is unbelievable. Let me make sure everything's up. I'm going to make sure you hear this. I'm going to put my mic as close to over here as possible. All right, here's the featurette. Start from the beginning. So yeah, they're talking about... Yeah. I'm skipping it. It's literally only 2 minutes long. Here we go. So here we go. Listen to this.
It would be great to eventually bring it back full circle, bring the Nun story and tie it back into the Conjuring.
Even James Wan knows this has nothing to do with the Conjuring. When you have the guy who created this universe, started it with maybe the plans of doing something bigger with it, maybe not having plans to do something big with it, when you have him saying, basically, this isn't fully part or fully doesn't tie in to the rest of everything else, but maybe one day we will. Like, that's a red flag to me. That basically is showing you, hey, we made a movie and we didn't make it make sense with the rest of the movies we're making that are all part of the same universe. That is such bullshit to me. Like, something better has to be done for this. Like, you can't just be trying to, I mean, who am I saying? Of course they're trying just to make money. But they have to be willing to make stuff that's going to make them keep making money. Because if they get bad reviews like this and they keep making, middle of the mark films that are meant to be bigger than that, people are going to stop caring. And like I said, this film is good as a standalone movie. If it was just some random haunting film of some sort, then yeah, it would make sense. But it's really upsetting because you know that if you follow these movies, they made The Nun make sense. The Nun ties into the rest of the Conjuring world very well. This one doesn't. It does not tie in any way, shape, or form. Essentially, it retcons everything else that happens in The Conjuring after the fact. Because essentially what the first Nun did, it led into the story that the Warrens tell in that first film when they're in the college. They're giving a presentation, they're showing a film. And the people in the film are essentially characters that are part of the story of the Nun, and that's what they're doing. They're showing that he progressed with the possession to the point where they got involved after he came to America. And what does the Nun do? It basically says, fuck that, we're going to do whatever we want because the Nun makes millions of dollars. Now, granted, financially, very successful. Probably one of the best horror films this year, theater-wise, especially when it comes to being released close to the Halloween season. I think this came out mid-September or something, and the numbers are crazy. It cost like $35 million to make. It made like $255 million. So it's definitely surpassed what it needs to make. That'll basically say, oh, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do 15 nuns. And now we're going to call this the Nun Universe. And it's no longer the Conjuring Universe. Fuck you. This is such bullshit. Like, I need somebody to put the hammer down on James Wan and tell him to be more on top of it like Kevin Feige was in the first 22 films of the MCU. Regardless of how many bad films there were, they made every film connect and they made it work. Even though they wrote themselves into a corner, they made it work. He should have looked at this script, spat on it, and threw it in the toilet. Why he didn't do that, I don't know. It's very upsetting to me, and I'm probably going to be one of the very few negative reviews you're going to hear about this film, strictly because I don't like what it has to say for the rest of the series. However, for Halloween, yeah, watch it. It's scary.